What's up, guys? Welcome to the channel. As you can see, we are back here in Forza Horizon 4 again today. Start of a new season, or series, my bad, and new season. And as you can see, I did already get the Italdesign Zerouno unlocked. I actually had filmed a video of doing all the races to unlock this car. It was a really good video too. I had some really nice races. And unfortunately, I did not make sure that I had my live commentary turned on when I was recording, so all that footage is basically trash. So here we are. Just gonna do a customization video, take it out, do some driving and racing. But I did want to take a look at it here in Forza Vista a little closer. If you watched the live stream, you probably did see a lot of this, but I wanted to talk about it a little myself and see it a little closer. So you can see we have our ABS solenoid here in the center, brake master cylinder and booster off to that side. I'm guessing our power steering fluid reservoir is that little box, or the little bottle all the way to the far right. I'm gonna guess. I could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is. Off to the left hand side, I'm gonna say that's either a fuse box or a battery tray. I wanna say it's probably battery tray, because as you'll see here in a second, there's not really any space here in the back to be able to mount the battery closer to the engine. So you can see there's a lot of like exoskeleton and cage work here in the rear to really stiffen this car up, and it really shows with the way this car drives here in the game. You can see that Audi motor here in the back as well. If you don't know and missed the live stream, this car is built on a Lamborghini chassis with an Audi engine in it. Italdesign is just the design house that did the modifications and put a body on it, but it is based mostly off of all Lamborghini stuff. So you can see we got the ductwork coming over the wheel arch here in the back that goes back to feed the engine, and I'm assuming probably help cool the radiator down. Very, very interesting design. It's really crammed in there. This car would be an absolute nightmare, even for the dealer, I'm gonna guess, to really work on, and probably cost a small fortune for even small repairs. So as you can see here in the interior, there's a lot of Alcantara and a lot of carbon fiber. Got a really nice Italian flag accent on the dash. I really like it. It really sets the inside off a little bit and sets it apart a little. The only thing I'm kind of confused about is this trim around the steering wheel here. That doesn't make any sense to me. It doesn't match anything else on the car and just looks really out of place and kind of ruins the cohesiveness of the inside. But besides that, it's a very nicely done minimalistic style interior. You got the nice like racing style door pulls over here on the side. Got our push button gear selector up there, paddle shifters obviously for manual mode. Everything's just really nicely laid out. It looks really good on the inside, besides that trim on the steering wheel, of course. We'll go ahead and start it up here real quick. I will say it sounds better outside of Forza Vista than it does in, but it's still got a really nice sound to it. It just sounds really tamed down. You can really hear that raspiness though in the higher RPMs. Very good sounding car. Let's go ahead and jump out here to take it for a quick test drive stock. I will say now, from driving it earlier, I already know this car drives and handles amazingly. It's really, really astounding. It's definitely better than most of the Lamborghinis I've tried. That would be like comparable performance index wise to it. And before we get started here, I want to sit and just listen to that idle sound. It's so good. Like, they really, really did a good job on this. I don't know if they reused another engine sound for this, but I don't remember hearing this in any of the other cars. It obviously is the Audi engine, but I don't remember the Audi sounding as good as this. And let's jump to the exterior real quick, because outside it sounds almost as good as. I really like the deepness of the interior sound. And those flame pops out of the back look so good with those 4 exits in the exhaust. Like, you can't get tired of that. It's just too good. And I'm gonna say now, I really feel like this car is gonna be a really good car as far as being competitive and like S1 or even S2 ranked adventures or online adventures in general. It just feels like it's way grippier and just a lot faster accelerating than most of the other cars I've drove in this class, or even upgrading it to S2. Because when I recorded a video earlier, I did upgrade it to the almost top of S2. You can't quite get there on the stock engine, but even having that little bit of a gap from not quite maxing it out in S2 is just extremely quick, and the handling was amazing, especially considering I didn't touch the tune after upgrading it. I left everything how it was, just took it out and ran it, and it took anything I could throw at it just about. The grip was astonishing. So let's cruise this thing back here real quick to the castle, check out the customization on it, upgrade it, and then we'll jump out, do some racing. And I'm actually thinking about throwing a little drift build at this thing in the video too, just to see if this thing can drift. I'm sure it can, I'm just not sure how good it's going to actually be, because it is rear engine car, and they tend to be a little hard to get enough angle out of without the car wanting to over rotate. Alright, so as far as conversions, I don't think anybody's going to be really surprised by this, considering the heritage of this car and what it's based off of. You get the 6.5 V12, you can also get the racing V12. Not going to be doing either one of those because I really like the stock engine. We'll throw the twin turbos on it because you have to be able to get this car almost to the top of S2 with that factory engine. You just cannot get enough power out of it in A for it to get up even, I think it was like halfway up S2 is as far as it would go. So as you can see on this car, Forza Aero's not horrible looking. With that red stripe on the front lip, it does kind of look a little strange, but compared to a lot of the other cars, it's really not bad. And this is where things get a little more interesting, because Italdesign has this huge GT style rear spoiler you can throw on it. And for this build, I'm actually going to go ahead and do it. When I first built it, I didn't. See, we have a terrible looking Forza spoiler as well. Obviously way too small for this car. And then if you want to be pretty basic, you can just get rid of it, which makes it look a lot more Lamborghini. And speaking of that, now that we have all the body panels back on this thing, if you zoom in enough to where you only see that rear or front fender section, especially with that little scoop design coming out the back, very F40 looking besides those gills on the top. Come around the back, that's definitely Lamborghini. But then you get just kind of like a side profile with a little bit of the front, and it really has an almost Corvette C8 type of look with almost like a Koenigsegg roof line. Especially when you look at the way the like teardrop is in the back of the window there as it tapers down. Definitely kind of a mashup of cars. It makes me think of something from Grand Theft Auto, except done really well. Doesn't have that kind of just thrown together look a lot of Grand Theft Auto cars would have. I already know what I'm going to do for wheel selection, because like I said, I have already done this. These just look really good on it, and I don't know if you've ever noticed, but you can kind of see, let me zoom just a little bit and pan the camera over. These have a red inner hub already on them, so they kind of have like a nice little red accent to match the rest of the accents on the car. I was really hoping this thing would have more options as far as stock paint jobs, because even though you can individually paint layers on this car, you cannot keep the Italian flag design on it, and I did not want to spend the time trying to replicate it. I was really hoping we could get a black paint job with that design, but unfortunately it's not there. And I just noticed something here looking at the front of the car I did not notice before, which is that logo for Italdesign is also a bull. So definitely very Lamborghini. Looking at that front though, it really just makes me think of the new Corvettes. And the side profile too, it's really throws me off looking at this car because it looks like so many other cars that have been made, not only new but also old, because of those Ferrari F40 front fenders it has. Another thing that really surprised me, I should have mentioned it while I was already over here, this thing only has 245s on the front stock and had that much grip and handled as well as it does. That's mind-blowing to me, even with the race tires on it. It really shows how much downforce this thing actually has on it out of the factory. It does already have race tires, and as you saw, I did throw the track width upgrades on it, and on this car they're very tasteful. It's not really too much, it's just enough. And another thing I want to point out that's a nice little feature that they added in when they did this car, they added these little carbon fiber, almost like mud flaps or rock guards, to protect everything in this back where it tapers in, to keep all the rocks from flying up and tearing your spoiler up and just smacking the back end of the car and just chipping it really bad. It's a very nice touch by the manufacturer, and it's very functional and also looks just sick on the car. So let's jump out of the tire upgrades. We'll go over here. I'm just gonna max everything out real fast. I will do a little tuning to it this time. I want to do some work to the tire pressures and gearing just a little bit, because fully upgraded, this thing maxes the gears out really quick. As you can see, the drift suspension looks just insane on this. It really slams it and tucks those tires in. Like, that is literally the most perfect tuck you could ask for in the front of this car. Although it does look a little goofy being a hypercar, having that much camber in the front and not being set up for drifting. I'm kind of interested to see how this thing would do off-road with the rally suspension, because it is all-wheel drive rear engine, so it does get very good traction. Definitely going to be playing around with builds on this thing a little bit and seeing what it can do. And this was another thing that surprised me. You can get this thing down to 2,800 pounds with the cage in it, which doesn't seem like it's that light, but this isn't really a very small car. You gotta think, this is a very densely packaged, I guess would be the best way I can say it, car. There's so much crammed in here for chassis reinforcement and all the technology that's crammed in this thing. 2,800 pounds is really insanely light for a car like this, which I think really attributes a lot to the handling of it. It makes it very nimble feeling. It doesn't really feel like it's all-wheel drive. It is almost hard to get the car to understeer unless you're just really plowing into a corner way too fast. And I'll pop over here, oops. As you can see, we're almost 1,000 horsepower, just 22 horsepower, 12 horsepower. My math is horrible right now, shy of 1,000 horsepower. Torque's not the greatest in this thing, but it doesn't need the torque, and it's actually a little better because it keeps you from spinning up the tires too much when you try to really push this thing out of a corner. It's a really well balanced and great feeling car to drive. So you can see that brought us up to 982. I do want to jump over and throw the front arrow on just to see where that would put us. I just now realized it. That is the most useless tow hook of all time. It is literally sitting behind all of the splitters in the front. And if you tried to hook to it and pull this thing with anything that's set remotely high, which are what most of the recovery vehicles are taller vehicles, you're gonna rip the whole front end of the car off. I don't know what you were thinking, Playground Games. Like, I don't even know what it's attached to. It looks like they mounted the tow hook to the radiator of the car, because it does appear either, oh no, those are just vents. So they mounted it to the plastic vents of the car, or possibly carbon fiber. Definitely a big oversight there, guys. I don't know what they were thinking, but we're gonna throw it on anyways, just for the extra downforce. Go ahead and install this. I'm gonna go tune a little bit on this car real quick. We'll take it out, do a quick test drive of it with all the upgrades and a little tuning. And then we'll go jump in and do some races, and depending on how far we are into the video by then, we might come back and do a quick drift build on this. So I don't know if it'll really come across in the video, but this thing somehow sounds even better upgraded, especially with the turbo blow-off valves when you decelerate. I have a fly that will not stay away from my face, and it's absolutely driving me insane right now. So, as I was saying, you can see I didn't touch the suspension setup at all. I will say that all I really did was mess with the gearing a little bit, just a tiny bit, and then adjusted my brake bias a little bit. And besides that, this is all just the way the tuning is after upgrading it, and it's a dream to drive. That's all you can really say. There's no real way to describe it. If I can find fifth, this thing just feels amazing in the game. And it feels like it's just literally glued to the road just about. Oh, already in 7th. I want to go try to grab another gear because it feels like it just wants to keep going. So since we are already so close to a lot of these events here in Edinburgh, we're going to go ahead and jump over to this one. See how we can do in some racing in this thing. I have fairly high hopes for this car just because of how well it drives and how quick it is. So I'm pretty interested to see how this thing does here on this track, because it is fairly tight. There is room to get some speed on some of the corners though, so it's really going to test a lot of what this car is capable of just in general. It's not really going to push it in any one department. It's really going to test everything this car is capable of out. Oh, forgot about that corner. I have not drove here in a while. This thing goes through gears so quick. Definitely would take a little getting used to it before you can really get good gear changes down. That'd be one expensive bump there between a Senna and this thing. If I remember right, I think there's only like 5 of these actually that have been made. And I'm not sure what the US value of it is, but they were saying it's like 1.5 million pounds. So if any of you know the conversion rates off the top of your head there, leave it in the comments on how much that would be USD. I'm kind of curious. Oh, getting bossed around by the AI a little there. So that's not bad for our first race. especially on a track that I don't really drive very much. Can't really complain. The blow-off valves on this sound so good when it's turbocharged. Alright, so we're going to be here at the Princess Street Garden Circuit for this race. After this one, we'll go ahead and jump back to the festival or one of my houses and go ahead and switch a couple things out real quick and throw a little drift build at this thing just to see if it can slide. I'm really curious. The AI is being real aggressive back there. I keep getting bumped from behind. I don't know where that Lamborghini went, but that did not look like a good line to be on. Run out a little wide there so I can carry a little extra speed out of that corner. Definitely starting to get a feel for this car a little more now. Oh, little all-wheel drive slide around there. Curb unsettled the car and just kind of went with it. Oh. Should have known that was going to happen. Those Bugattis are definitely not the greatest handling. They're just stupid fast, though. Slowed down way before I was ready to. You can really see on this track how well this car does soak the bumps up and how well it just stays glued down to the road. It's really, really crazy how well this car can just stick to the road. Definitely is a handful driving this kind of car with an H pattern shifter, but it really makes it a lot more fun rowing through the gears. Just gotta be real quick though, because you go through them so fast. It's a pretty good race. Couple little heavy bumps here and there, but overall it's pretty clean. Pretty good lap time too. Alright, so we're back here at the festival. We're gonna go ahead and jump in, throw drift suspension on it, switch it over to rear wheel drive because not the biggest fan of all wheel drive drifting. I can do it, I don't know why I was in there. I can drift all-wheel drive. I'm not the best at it, and definitely is not my favorite thing. So we got drift suspension. Gonna go ahead and pull that front bumper off. You don't need any extra downforce kind of messing with the car while you're trying to drift, especially because this already does have race tires. And that reminds me, actually, we're gonna go over here. We're gonna bring our tire width back down to 245 front. And I'm hoping it was like a 2.0 or 305s in the rear. We should have plenty of power to overcome that grip though. So for the front, I'm actually going to bring it back up to a 265. We'll jump over, do our rear wheel drive swap on it. And we should be good to go. Hopefully I can slide this car. It should be doable. Just take a little getting used to, especially the balance of it being rear engine and now also rear wheel drive. It's definitely going to handle a lot different. Ooh. So I did do a little bassline tune to it. I didn't play around with anything too much, just kind of get a bass set up how I normally like my cars. There's that really nasty rear engine snapped angle I was talking about. I'm really not sure how well this car is going to work as a drift car. I kind of had high hopes for it, but there we go, it's a little better. Very, very touchy car in handling, even as a drift car. Oh. Very, very weird feeling car drifting. Really not a fan of these race tires on it. So before I make any more of a fool out of myself trying to drift this thing, I think we'll go ahead and end the video here today. I really think this car would do decent as a drift car with more work on the tune. Like I said, I didn't do a lot to it. And it does seem to do okay. It's just really hard to find that sweet spot in the power band. Yeah, it's just very weird feeling and oddly balanced car for drifting. It's definitely not what you want to really be doing in this thing anyway. I just thought it'd be fun to give it a shot and see how it would do. But that's going to do it for today, guys. Tomorrow I will be putting a video up on the new Porsche 917. Should hopefully be a lot of fun to drive. That car is absolutely insanely fast from what I got to drive it in other games before. But if you guys enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe down below, and I'll see you guys in the next one. And I just went through a house or something.